I'm gonna resist the urge to self-deprecate, so thank you.
Awesome.
She goes, good job, you.
Yeah, that's so awesome. To say thank you to somebody else, there is generosity in that. Being in the moment and living in that presence of gratitude. That's the stuff of life also. It's not joy that makes one grateful. It's gratitude that makes one joyful.
Coming from a place of gratitude is truly about living in a personal moment with oneself.
For oneself, it is important to express gratitude.
I'm thinking about how much peace one can have if they truly are coming from a place of gratitude.
It's the centeredness. There's a snowball effect that lifts the well-being of oneself and the snowball effect of lifting of others.
This is really juicy.
Yay!
So thank you.
Yay!
Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Leonard.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
How are you today, Dr. Ignacio?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was texting my sister-in-law the other day. Shout out to Jenny in
Hi,
Savannah,
Jenny.
who I love. She's a faithful listener of Simply Enough. So
thank you.
And we need a name like Simply Enoughters or something like that. You know, like Justin Bieber's fans, right? And everybody, or like the Beehive for Beyonce's fans, or we need our people. We need our name.
If anybody has any ideas, email us. What's our email address?
info@simplyenough.me.
Even comment on our YouTube, right? There's a way to comment on the YouTube episodes.
Yeah. Let's start let's come up with ideas for the name of our group, right?
Yeah. We want to interact with our listeners and our viewers. So interact with us, everybody.
Love that. But I was texting with Jenny, and Jenny was really being very sweet in this text. She was giving me a compliment. And in this particular moment, what happened, I think would be fascinating for us to dig into today. So she was giving me a compliment, and particularly about the podcast. She was saying just how much she enjoys listening to it and how our dynamic works so well together. And she says that she finds it really calming to listen to us at how we're navigating things. And I was really struggling in that moment to just accept the compliment. And I said, and I'm going to read it. I said, well, I'm going to resist the urge to self-deprecate or reflect. So thank you.
Awesome.
She goes, good job, you.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
That was a conscious choice, as you can tell, but I had to say all the things I was thinking, but about just saying thank you, not just in a moment of accepting a compliment, but kind of in general, when somebody does something kind for me or whatever, just this idea of taking a moment to say thank you. So I put that out today just because it was something that just popped up just 2 days ago. I thought it would be interesting to just like explore, because other friends that I have struggle with the same thing, where I will give them a compliment and they'll like push it back on me. Well, you blah, 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 or no, I didn't really, they'll kind of like downplay it. It's just kind of fascinating. Don't you think?
It is. And I'm so glad actually that you did preface your thank you as a teaching point for everybody, for all of us. Not that that's why you did it, but thought out loud in terms of the process of recognizing the tendency to deflect or self-deprecate or minimize or diminish, and just be open to receiving. In a previous episode, we talked about it one of our earliest episodes, we talked about how sometimes because we are people pleasers or we get our value from being of service, as if we have to earn our worth, we're very quick to give. But actually, sometimes there's the skill that needs to be learned and practiced, which is receiving. So good on you for recognizing the natural tendency that you and certainly I also have. I think there was one of the most recent episodes where you, as you often are, were gushing with compliments towards me. Thank you, Zachary. Thank you. But I literally was like silent. I had no words to say. And I think I even said, like, this is awkward.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say thank
did.
you and then kind of ignore it.
You did.
But, what a disservice in ignoring or downplaying, what a disservice to the giver of the compliment. Because again, there's joy in the giving and there's joy in the receiving. And, we've said in many previous episodes, one of my favorite quotes that I didn't come up with, I just repeated a lot, which is, it's not joy that makes me grateful, it's gratitude that makes me joyful. So good on you for that in vivo exercise, meaning in real life exercise, as opposed to just a theoretical. I love it. I also, if I can just say, and I'm giggling, this is a reflection on me, because when we were texting back and forth yesterday about what might we want to talk about, and so the just say thank you was the topic that we decided upon. And I love how, okay, I'm embarrassed about myself now because what does it say about me? The way you clearly read it and interpreted it in terms of just say thank you is the learning and the practice of you yourself saying thank you, which is so humble. Meanwhile, the way I was interpreting it when I wrote out just say thank you is everybody's going to judge me now. My irritation and annoyance with thank yous not being said enough, and how it's shorthand now with THX or TKS, as opposed to really being in the moment and living in that moment and presence of gratitude, of expressing thanks or truly expressing a thank you. So I love how yours was so kind and gracious, and I'm just being real, viewers and listeners. Like that's where I was coming from, and I don't mean even thank you to me. I mean like when I witness amongst other people. So it's not like people don't say thank you enough to me. That's not the case at all. I mean, I literally have the most gracious, generous patients and friends and family. So I'm not bitching about my not receiving enough thank yous. I just feel like in civil discourse nowadays and society, and because we have become kind of so consumer based that it's not even the art, it's really actually it I think used to be a natural tendency to come from a place of gratitude and expressing thank you. Has if not been lost, has been at least kind of minimized a little bit.
Can I interject real quick? Because I do want to
Absolutely,
say
please do.
something about that really struck me. When I moved to Hawaii, I was overwhelmed at how real and palpable an act of gratitude lives in Hawaii. And I do want to give a shout out to all of our listeners in Hawaii, because I think there's no other community, there's no other state, there's no other place where I've experienced it so real, so alive, so sincere as my time in Hawaii. It's to the point where an indication of exactly what you're saying is I lived there 7 years, continued to be caught off guard at the degrees to which people show their gratitude with a thank you note, with a gift for your gift. Well, they'll come to your office or your home, or they'll show up and they'll pick you up from the airport, and all of these little acts come with some message of gratitude or mahalo or thank you. And it's overwhelming. I grew up in a household where we were supposed to write thank you cards and things like that. And I will admit that I'm not as good about it as I would like to be. And then I met the people at the school that I worked, and the people in the theater community, and just the people of Hawaii. And I will say the act of showing gratitude is alive and rich and sincere. So I just wanted to put that out there as a point of reference to exactly what you're saying, which is I think I live a little bit more with like, okay, thank you. And it's kind of like whatever, like blow off. But then in Hawaii, people they go to the utmost length to just say, no, truly, thank you. It's cool. Anyway, so sorry for that little,
Hallelujah.
yeah, sorry for that little tangent there.
No, are you kidding? Sorry. Thank you for that shout out to the people and community of Hawaii. And I'll also say I don't know.
Mhm.
I've experienced it elsewhere. I've lived
Yeah.
in many other states, and so what is amazing, to your point, that I have certainly been the recipient of, for which I am grateful, is yeah, the in very much in Hawaii and in other places, in showing gratitude and saying thank you. Uh, it's not uncommon to accompany the thank you with a gift in return, right?
Yes.
I love that because to say thank you to somebody else, there is generosity in that because you are recognizing of yourself why you are grateful, why you are thankful, and then you are extending that or reciprocating that back. And just by the words, thank you, with eye contact or expressed in words, that there is a generosity in there. So there's truly, that adage of, better to give than to receive, or better to
Mhm.
receive than to give, and all the kind of stuff. It's reciprocal, or at least it can be, and so fulfilling. Having said that, one thing I will say, and this did happen in Hawaii, and that's why there's never any all or
Right.
nothing
Right.
extremes in life, right? We find it in all people and in all places.
Mhm.
I had a patient, and it was right at the beginning of COVID, like literally in Hawaii. I think we shut down in March
Mhm.
of 2020. And this happened right, literally like the week of the shutdown. And a patient injured himself. This type of injury required surgery, and
Okay.
required surgery ideally sooner than later, but it was certainly not an emergency,
Mhm.
like motor vehicle accidents,
Right.
heart
Right.
attacks, that kind of thing. But there's no question the outcome is better if the surgery is done sooner than later. But because of the shutdown, literally the shutdown,
Mhm.
there's some finagling that needed to be done in expediting
Yeah.
things, like expediting getting an MRI, for
Mhm.
example, which, with insurance authorizations and all that kind of stuff, that can take weeks.
Mhm.
But I did know this person, and considered this person a friend. And again, not just because of the personal connection, but there was some urgency, not emergency to it, but some urgency to
Mhm.
it. We helped expedite pretty much everything, which was the
Wow.
MRI was obtained that night, and this is all outpatient. So it's not like this is something through, the emergency
Mhm.
department or anything like that, but got an MRI that night. I went out of my way to see this person, see him, the next day. He did need surgery, like I said, but again, it's not an emergency. But we helped expedite
Mhm. Mhm.
getting the authorization and getting him on the schedule within a couple days. And even my I'll say my in quotes, but my A team
Mhm.
ortho surgical OR team, we organized them so that I would have them for this surgery, because this isn't a common surgery. So I wanted to have
Yeah.
a team with the expertise in this not so common surgery. That took finagling to coordinate everybody's schedules. And again, because of the shutdown, where I do all of my surgeries is in what's called the same day surgery outpatient surgery center. But because of the shutdown, surgeries were only being done in the main operating room.
Oh.
And so finagling of my whole OR team, not
Mhm.
only in terms of their schedule, but then bringing them up to the main OR as opposed to the same day OR, all of this kind of stuff. This happened, all of that, including the surgery date, all happened in a couple of days. And this patient just kept kind of commenting, and I won't say that he was complaining, but he just kept commenting. I had to wait for this, and I had to wait for that. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, like this could
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
like you could have waited 6 weeks to 3 months normally. And then on top of that, there's this
Yeah.
immediate
Yeah.
COVID shutdown. Wait, this is near miraculous that this is all happened in a matter of days. But I didn't say that. I just said, because at that point, I'm long in my career to the degree where I realize, like, all I can do is the best that I can
Yeah.
do. And there are
Yeah.
some people that just aren't wanting to be pleased or easy to be pleased. And I'm not here to please anyway. I'm here
Right.
to do what's best. So what I said, and again, yes, this person is a friend. I said, if all of this didn't happen, quickly enough for you, we can help expedite,
Oh, wow.
but we can help expedite getting you in with a colleague of mine to see if perhaps things can be done quicker. But I didn't say that with disdain. I
No.
honestly
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
here's, okay, if this is taking too long, that the fact that all of this has occurred in a few days and your surgery is scheduled in a couple days, fine, it's not tomorrow, but it's in a couple days. Should you wish to try to see if there's another surgeon available to do it sooner with my expertise, with comparable expertise, I will help expedite.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll still never forget this. And this is 2020 and today's 2022. And I still remember this exact conversation and his response and his facial expression. He said, no, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. And I thought to myself, satisfied? Okay.
Shit.
And anyway, and we did the surgery and there was never a thank you. It was always that he was pleased with it or he was satisfied. And it just dawned on me again, an example of, there is no thanks or THX, and certainly there was no thank you in there. Where does a person come from in thinking that way and feeling that way, that it is about just his satisfaction? And then it made me reflect on levels that lead up to gratitude. And what I mean by that is, again, in this very consumer oriented, quick to review on Yelp or quick to review on Google and cancel culture and everything, the quickness to come almost from a place of entitlement of almost like royalty. I am pleased and I am satisfied. And that's great, but that's not where gratitude comes from. I'm dancing around this a little bit because what are the levels, at least in my mind, what are the levels that lead up to gratitude, which really that's the stuff of life also is gratitude. Because again, that's where joy comes from. Yeah. Being pleased or satisfied is just filling a need. It's not even fulfilling. It's just filling a need. Then there is appreciation, which sounds great. And there is something, of course, there's something very good about appreciation. Well, so what is appreciation? That is recognizing the value of something. So I appreciate this work of art. I appreciate that the painter painstakingly painted this piece of art. It's not really for me, but I can appreciate the value of that. That's great. Like at least that's somewhat of putting on the shoes of another person a little bit, maybe not tying the shoes and walking in those shoes and wearing those shoes, but like putting your feet in the shoes and recognizing the value of something. That's at least better than like, I am pleased and I am satisfied, right? Like royalty. So appreciation is the next level, at least the way I see it. This is not in some textbook, everybody, but this is just how I see it. Yeah. So there's appreciation, and appreciation is important because that is recognizing the value of somebody else or somebody else's action. But then there's appreciation, then there's gratitude, grateful, thankful. And that is where that's not just a kind of abstract verb. I appreciate something. I recognize the value of it. Being thankful and being grateful is where you now have personalized it. It is something personal to you that you recognize the value to you, and it moves you, enriches you, gives you joy personally. And then in the expression of that by saying and meaning, because it's a personal thing, gratefulness, gratitude, thankfulness, that's a personal thing, to then express it fully by saying thank you. Just say thank you as opposed to thanks or the text THX. Yeah. That is an act of generosity. I think that's just how I see it.
It just happened to me the other day. So go through your levels again, because I think you're just hitting a synthesized way of taking a big topic and making it into really digestible bits. So you were talking about just these levels, appreciation and gratitude. What was your first level?
Being pleased
Pleased.
or satisfied
Oh, satisfied. That's what it
is
was.
right. It is more like that fills my need, or
Yep.
I approve. That's what it is. So that's what it is. The first level, if we're going to name it,
Yeah.
is approval. I approve. I'm pleased. I'm satisfied. There is almost a separation
Mm-hmm.
between the giver or the
Mm-hmm.
act and you or me when I say I am pleased or that's fine with me
Mm-hmm.
or I'm satisfied with that. That just fills the need
Mm-hmm.
and it's your need. So that's approval or pleased or
Uh-huh.
satisfied or even in receiving a gift that one actually loves and one was hoping for or one needs to comment on, oh, that's perfect, like that's exactly what I wanted, that's
Yeah.
perfect, and that's great, and that's approval, and there's even appreciation in that,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, you thought of what I needed and it's exactly what I needed and that's perfect. That's still not thank you.
Yeah.
And that's still not gratitude and that's still not gratefulness and thankfulness, because the commentary
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it fills the need, oh, that's perfect, that's what I needed to take that next step
Mm-hmm.
of thank you, this
Yep.
is perfect and exactly what I needed. Thank you that you thought of this. How did you know?
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing that you recognize what I needed. It is perfect what I needed. Thank you.
Yep.
That's that next step of one's generosity of emotion, of giving of that emotion of gratefulness and
Mm-hmm.
thankfulness. So there's the objective approval
Uh-huh.
that fills the need. Then there's the appreciation. I recognize the value
Uh-huh.
in what you've given or what you've done. Then there's the feeling. There's the personal feeling, the personal emotion of thankfulness and gratefulness and gratitude of it fills the need. I appreciate the value of what you did and it made me feel this
Mm-hmm.
way. And now I'm going to express how I feel by saying
Mm-hmm.
thank you, as opposed to, oh, thanks.
Thanks.
Or, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
TY. TY. Poor Mikey and Gracie. I mean, I tell them, in text, when you send a text, I know I don't want to, but I don't know how others feel, but I don't want you to write THX or TY or even thanks and spelling it out. It
Yeah.
is please learn and
Yeah.
practice to, if you're going to text, and that's the world nowadays, a personally handwritten thank you note is amazing.
Yeah.
But this is the world. And so if it's
Yeah.
an email or if it's a text, please say thank you
Mm-hmm.
and mean it,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to thanks
Mm-hmm.
or TX, TK, no, T.
You can't even do it.
I can't even do it because I don't do it. So
my brain is all over the place. So forgive me if I jump around because I think what you're touching upon is sparking a lot of thoughts in my mind. So in a previous episode, we talked about moments of opportunity to connect. And I think part of what I'm hearing is in a moment where somebody is offering something to you, really with, it sounds like no expectations of other than to just do something for somebody else, which sounds like what you were trying to do for this patient is you were just being you, and you're so lovely and you're so wonderful. And this person truly missed the opportunity to connect back with you in the same way that we talked about when I came out to some friends, or you were sharing about a gentleman that you knew that came out to his group of friends, and that friend essentially was just like, well, I'm straight, and like missed that opportunity that there was a moment to connect with each other. There's a moment to connect here. And in the spectrum of a potential moment of gratitude, on far end, the satisfied approval is really just about the person who received it. Like I have approved of this, right?
yes.
I think the further you go, or at least as I'm thinking out loud, the further you go on that spectrum towards true gratitude, the harder it is for me to actually accept it, because I would rather you just be satisfied. Like I approve of this message, rather than an appreciation, which is almost like tolerance in a way, which is this moment of like, oh, we were close. Like I appreciate you always feels like it comes with a but. It always feels like it comes with just a tinge of a message of like, but it's still not good enough, or I still can't say thank you, or there's still something associated with it. And so I have never really understood why the word appreciate bothers me. I've never really understood it until now. And I think it's because it comes close, but is still so far away from an actual true moment of gratitude, a true personalized moment, which is what you were saying, to just connect with another person and say, wow, thank you. Truly, thank you. So thank you. I haven't ever figured that out. I have never understood why. I don't like to use the word appreciate unless it's couched within a broader message of gratitude. So then it fits within that context. But just the other day, someone said to me, I appreciate all that you do for me. And then there was a but right after it. And they often at least go together in my mind. And I never really understood why. And I'm kind of geeking out a little bit on what you just presented because it makes so much sense to me.
Well, and also consider that there is the flip side of that, though, is truly because we're talking, on a continuum or a spectrum, there is no gratitude without appreciation.
Right.
I would definitely rather have appreciation as opposed to approval, right?
Oh.
One can't have gratitude without appreciating something. And to bring up my favorite series, one of my favorite series, Ted Lasso. One of the things that Ted Lasso as a character said frequently, but actually has become somewhat of a cultural phenomenon in a good way, is I appreciate you. Ted Lasso says that, and the cast has said that they've said that to each other more frequently, and that when the cast are walking down the street in their real personal private life and they're walking down the street, people will say, I appreciate you. There is meaning and there is something very personal, and that is on the way to being grateful when it's not prefacing a but.
Yes.
There's, if we're really going to break it apart and be scientific, there's a spectrum of appreciation too. So there are times where one's saying, I appreciate you, or I appreciate that you did this, or even I'm in this art gallery and I'm looking at that painting and I appreciate the hard work that went into it, or I'm in a symphony hall and I don't have a musical ear, but wow, I can look at that musician and the physicality of it, and I can appreciate that. There's still on the continuum, there's a more personal and interpersonal relation of that continuum of appreciation. Everything is contextual, right? So some people can say, well, I appreciate, but, and where that is on the end of appreciation, that's closer to the approval end of appreciation, as opposed to, I appreciate that you did that. That is semantics when it comes to saying thankfulness or gratefulness or gratitude, right?
It is a nuance, and on Simply Enough, we enjoy the grayness of that's okay. And when you say something like I appreciate you, I feel like you get to that place of connection because you are literally connecting I and you, right? And appreciate in that sense can be substituted for value or see or honor, like any of those words. I think when we're talking about like an act of service, it would have gone a long way, I suspect, if your patient had said, I appreciate you and all that you did to expedite me. Is there any way that we can have the surgery even sooner? Something like that would have gone a long way.
Yeah.
And then I think in that place, the word appreciate in my mind doesn't come with the but, because it's still in that place of gratitude of like a personalization.
Yeah.
I think when I often experience appreciate thrown at me, it's something that somebody is still dissatisfied with an act of service or something I've done for them. That now they feel like they need to acknowledge that, but still drive home their point of how they're not satisfied or what it is that bothers them.
Because that's still on the end of the continuum, more towards their approval, or to your word, their satisfaction, or their being pleased, as opposed to recognizing the value, which is what appreciation is. I mean, even when we use, in business terms, that something appreciates and value, that's the same thing, right? So that I appreciate, but is more towards really the end of the continuum of satisfaction and feeling pleased, as opposed to I appreciate all that you did. I recognize a value in all that you did. Is there any way to move the surgery sooner? Like that's again where that patient could have put on my shoes, maybe even tied the shoelaces. And then that's an interpersonal connection.
Yeah.
Gratitude and thankfulness is trying to put himself in my shoes and walk around in it and recognize, wow, these shoes are heavy. Amazing how far we've come with these shoes. That's the continuum.
So first of all, you have awesome shoes. I would definitely love to put on your shoes.
I liked your kinky boots.
No.
I want those red.
Oh my gosh,
those red high-heeled boots.
I bought my own.
We're talking about the musical play, everybody.
Yeah, little context there. I loved them so much. I went and bought my own pair. They're black. They're not red though, but they're pretty fun to wear. But what I was going to say was, I was planning a friend's birthday party. This is quite a few years ago, many years ago, planning a friend's birthday party, and really sat down with my friend and tried to get everything that she would want for her birthday. And then was like, okay, now you don't need to worry about this. We'll just tell you when and where to show up. I have to say, this is more of a deal friend than a real friend, as I've come to learn now.
That's a previous episode for you new listeners and viewers.
And a good one.
A good one.
A very good one. And also how she kept showing up as herself. And I, for whatever reason, wasn't tuned in to how the relationship really was. Anyway, the point of all of this is we planned the birthday party, and one of the details was not to her liking. There are like 50 people at the birthday party. This is at the place that she wanted. We had to shut down the place, which is no small feat because this is in New York City. And so we had to put a deposit down, which at the time I didn't have that kind of money. So I was trying to pull together other people, and really, this was huge. This was really a big deal. And, the dessert wasn't what she wanted. So at the end of the night, we're kind of, oh yeah. And we're sitting around, and most of the people had left, and we're just kind of enjoying some drinks. The staff is now with us, and the staff was very much a part, the wait staff of the restaurant, very much part of the party. And so now it's just kind of like, okay, the tension is gone, the stress is gone, like my tie's off, the heels are kicked off, and we're all just kind of sitting there enjoying each other. And she kind of leans over and she goes, I appreciate all that you did for my birthday tonight. And you could just smell it coming, right? Like, you just knew. And she's like, but that dessert. So I was a little sassy at this point. I think I might've had a couple drinks, and I said, oh, so the entire birthday was ruined because of the dessert? And she goes, it almost was.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, she didn't.
Ha. It almost was. Ha. Okay, now everybody in the room, I think there were like 50 people at the party, right? But now there's, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of us plus the wait staff, another 3 or 4. So 6 people, and the room got totally silent. Like itchy. Ooh, this is uncomfortable. And of course she laughs like, haha, just kidding. Yeah, no, it was a wonderful night, blah, blah, blah. I will never forget that, because it's exactly what you said. Look, I don't even think she should have said anything about the cake at that point, but that's just at all. Nonetheless, if it even came from a place of, I appreciate you. I appreciate all of this and the people that came, and oh my gosh, can you believe so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And then even if she had to say something, now we know she's a deal friend, so that's different, but she had to say something. But that dessert, like, even, I don't know, there could have been another way that it could have come up that wouldn't have diminished everything down to the dessert. And I just felt a little, well, F you.
Did fist meet cake? Previous episode, everybody. It's in the anger episode. Did
back.
Fist meet cake?
It almost did.
I'm just in shock that there are people that think like that. But the funny thing is, let's pretend her name is, I don't know, Amy.
Yep.
Let me just say this. Thank you, Amy, for revealing yourself, for showing yourself. And though perhaps in hindsight and retrospect, at least there's clarity in knowing, Amy, you're a deal friend to Zachary, not a real friend. And there's benefit in that, right?
Yeah.
And, I have to say, this episode might come across as if we're talking about etiquette and social graces. But we're not. Literally, the reason why this comes from a place of simply enough, and a place of self-growth and self-compassion even, and self-contentment is, again, first of all, it is true that, it's not joy that makes one grateful. It's gratitude that makes one joyful. And so if our listeners, if our viewers want to kick up some joy in their life a little bit, kick it up a notch, as Emerald, Chef Emerald used to say.
Bam!
That's where gratitude comes in. As much as we have expressed how in expressing gratitude, just like we've talked in previous episodes, it's important to express frustration, and
Yeah.
it's important to express anger. It's important to express any emotion. It is important to express for oneself, express gratitude, because yes, it does foster, whether it's momentary or whether it builds over one's life, a relationship and a connection with the person to whom you're saying thank you. There are multiple studies. One of the longest studies out of Harvard actually was how one's health and well-being is related to interpersonal relationships. That's how one fosters interpersonal relationships and connection is, again, with the connection through gratitude. But it also, again, the underlying theme there also, even in that long-term study, is how it benefits one's self. So the expression of gratitude, yes, fosters relationships, and that's a connection interpersonally, but it also benefits oneself by the expression. Sean Acor, who's a well-known positive psychologist, one of the gratitude exercises that he has people do is actually reach out and write or call 3 people to whom you're grateful, and that has improved and benefited the letter writer or the phone caller's self perception and self well-being. But interestingly, it's a snowball effect, because that often reignites or strengthens or confirms a relationship, but also compels other people to see the value of gratitude. And they then reach out to 3 others in their life. And there's a snowball effect that lifts the well-being of oneself and the snowball effect of lifting of others. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I appreciate, look at me using that word, that you brought it back to simply enough, because that question was going through my mind, which was, this could sound, like you said, like a message on etiquette or something in that vein, which it really, maybe on surface could seem that way, but it's really not. And thank you for grounding it back in simply enough. I also think about how we started this episode, and we started it where I was sharing, there was a compliment that was given to me and I had a hard time saying thank you. Based on your information about interpersonal relationships, it seems that there's always some kind of opportunity to connect with somebody, or there's a need that somebody has. Your patient had a need. My friend or my sister-in-law that gave me a compliment wanted to connect with me. And along this spectrum of gratitude, I know my takeaway is going to be stopping to just pause and say, what is happening here between me and this other person? And if I'm trying to find joy and finding that through a place of gratitude, there might be moments where I'm missing the opportunity to just say thank you, where somebody has done something for me. But just pausing and saying, okay, what is happening here with this other person? What is it that maybe they're trying to do to connect with me? Might give me just that second to stop and think, okay, yes, what are my needs then? So if I am your patient and I'm stressed out because I'm in pain and I'm broken and whatnot, and I want this to go faster, a different message could be, I appreciate all that you're doing. Is there any way this can go faster? Very, very, very different. In the same way that my sister-in-law gives me this beautiful compliment, rather than being like, no, I'm X, I'm this. No. She's trying to give me something, right? So what is happening? There's a moment to connect. That's my takeaway, is that both of those moments are really not that far away when it comes to how 2 people are going to try to find an opportunity to connect with each other, and can connect through gratitude in the way that they are interacting with each other. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. And so what I'm going to say about the and is, ultimately, it makes sense to me. This might not make sense to you or to our listeners or viewers, because these are thoughts in my head, but ultimately, actually, sitting in a place of thankfulness, in gratefulness, and in gratitude, yes, is an opportunity to connect with another, but it's really a recognition because it is a personal feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It is a recognition and a moment with oneself. Because again, at the end of the day, what is the only thing that you can control? What is the common denominator in any and all of your relationships? It's actually oneself.
Oneself,
right? I bring myself to every moment. I bring myself to every experience, to every communication, to every relationship. The longest relationship you have in your life is the one with yourself. Well, gratefulness, gratitude, thankfulness is really a connection with oneself, one's priorities, one's values. And then the expression of that is almost a beautiful corollary that benefits the self by connecting with somebody else. Do you see what I'm saying? So yes, there is the interconnection that you are commenting beautifully on about. Here's an opportunity to connect with somebody else. And I'm actually reducing it a little further or expanding upon it, either way, however you want to look at it, of, well, even at the end of the day, when, for example, you express thank you and the person brushes you off, or the person, again, doesn't receive it well, the expression of the thank you, there's a generosity in that expression of your feeling to somebody else. And if that's not well received, that's okay, because you have still benefited from living in that moment of gratitude, gratefulness, thankfulness. That has benefited you and your own relationship with yourself, whether or not it's received by the other person when you do say thank you. It's a reflection on you.
It's just like we talked about in the previous episode about opportunity, whether or not you step into that opportunity and you take that risk, even if it doesn't have the outcome that you want, just the recognition that you did it, right? You walk away with that benefit, right?
Yeah,
of
it's
like
something of, yes,
same kind of thing. And thank you. Thank you for bringing back that reminder. And also I was flushed with this thought of this podcast in a way is exactly what you're talking about. We are really doing this for ourselves and we are sharing it with others. And there are times when we've gotten feedback that are along the lines of somebody being very much like, well, can't you do it like this? Or you're not like this, or you're, I'm not satisfied, or I'm satisfied, and we've gone through our own journey of, well, that person, or, where we get kind of riled up about it, because it really is an act that we are doing for ourselves and sharing it with other people. But yet, Elizabeth, you and I continue to put yourself out there. You continue to share yourself with me and with our listeners. And you do that knowing that I'm grateful, because I tell you that all the time.
You do. And I thank you for that. And I'm grateful for you.
I guess what I'm trying to clunkily get to is that coming from a place of gratitude is truly about also living in a personal moment with oneself.
And allowing the receiving.
Yeah.
And then gifting the expression of it, however it might be received, because ultimately it's a reflection of oneself, one's values, how one wants to show up in this world.
And you show up and you show up and you share that with us. And I learn so much from you.
We learn from each other.
We do.
Thank you.
I'm just kind of gushing about you for a moment.
Thank you. Okay, awkward. Thank you.
En vivo.
In vivo practice. Yeah.
But I just love that reminder that distilling it down to, yes, it actually is truly a moment for you to be with yourself.
Yep.
That's freaking cool.
It's the longest relationship you have in life is with oneself.
Yeah.
And that's how you show up.
What I'm thinking about right now is how much peace one can have if they truly are coming from a place of gratitude.
Yes, that's the centeredness.
That was the word. Yeah. You're just centered. Yeah. My mind's a little right now because this is really juicy in ways I hadn't anticipated. So thank you.
Yay. Lovely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bring us home, because I'm a little bit of a inarticulate
even at your
mess.
worst, you're a better bring us homer than I am. I can barely round the bases.
Stop.
Bring us home, baby.
No, I think we have.
In just the recognition of gratitude, of being grateful, or of being thankful, there is that gift of receiving. I know that sounds paradoxical, but there is that gift of receiving, which often, especially like we talked about for people pleasers and those of us who feel that we only get our worth by being of service, that is an exercise that needs to be practiced. As much as there is giving, there's also the practice of graciously and gratefully receiving. And then in the moments of gratitude, as opposed to just approval, that is a very rich moment of the recognition of oneself. And then a bonus corollary of that is then the opportunity to connect with others.
Yeah, you do it terribly. You're the worst. Oh,
I thank you for this journey. And I thank you for our friendship pre-podcast. I mean, this podcast didn't come out of nowhere. It's because of our friendship that preceded it. And it's only further deepened. I love you.
I love you too. And listeners, we love you. Please do send us messages or post on YouTube to help us figure out what our Simply Enough group name is going to be.
Yes. And actually,
also,
if we can also ask, if you don't mind, listeners and viewers, it would really help us if you could, even if you don't view us on YouTube and you are podcast listeners, if you can go on YouTube and click subscribe. The more subscribers that we get, we then actually get our own named YouTube channel, which just makes it easier to share, or rate and review our podcast, our audio podcast, because again, that does help spread what I hope you all think is resonating, valuable message that means something.
Yeah. I also, to jump off that, would love to know if there are any Simply Enough stories that you would like to share, or Simply Enough, or moments that have come out of being a part of our journey that have stopped you or given you pause or helped you connect with yourself, because really that's what this episode and this entire podcast is, an opportunity for you to connect with yourself. So I would love to know what those stories are, and would love to be able to participate in your journeys in the way that you've participated in ours, because Elizabeth and I are sincere in saying that this is a personalized moment for us. Because it is a personalized moment and experience for us, we are grateful for all of you.
We are grateful for you, and we'd be grateful for your stories and your comments and your ideas.
Yeah.
And even your critiques. If it's coming from a well-intended place, we welcome that as well. Because it means that you care. And we're grateful for that.
Listeners and viewers, remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are. Period.
Mm.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.